children get eaten by trees. Hello! Welcome to the West Coast Davengers. I am Eric the Goblin. This is my show about comic books.
West Coast Avengers. West Coast Avengers. Ah! Ah!
Hi, I'm Don Cheadle. Welcome to Don Cheadle's World of Comics. You might not recognize me because I'm not Don Cheadle. Hey, welcome back to the West Coast Avengers, your source for comic books everything. Seriously. If I don't say it, and it's not true. Today's episode is an homage to my favorite comic book podcast. That is correct, Cartoonist Kayfabe. Just a short introduction. My name is Dave. I am a comic book seller, a comic book enthusiast, and a comic book collector. And me and my buddy Dave Correa are going to be going through Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but this is the Marvel edition with all the illustrations from Bernie Wrightson. So sit back, enjoy. If you are an art nerd, listen to Dave talk, because Dave knows how to speak about this stuff, and I'm more about just the energy of art. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget, West Coast Wednesday. West Coast Wednesday. My comic book auction and claim sale every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, and Sunday sit down every Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific, which is more of just an open format talk about comics. So enjoy this. Woo!
Hey, we just flipped around.
Yeah.
Weird Matrix stuff.
It was very weird. I had to digitize myself and you at the same time. All right, so we're going to take a look at Mary. I never realized her full name is Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley.
Yeah.
We all know it as Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Illustrated by Bernie Wrightson. Introduction by Stephen King. I will be reading every word of text while Dave...
I'll be acting it out.
Yeah, and Dave will be talking about the art and acting it out. This book, I knew it existed. My buddy Larry had the hardcover, and I know Marvel put it out.
This, I think, was published in the 80s, early 80s, I want to say. What's interesting about this book is that Bernie Wrightson... I think it took him about 7 years to do all the illustrations in this book. And there's something like 40 or 50 illustrations, and he just spent like a good part of the 70s doing this.
Yeah, because the illustrations are credited 77, 78, and then 83, and then the introduction's written in 83. So yeah, it probably gets published around 83, and that's about
this
7 years.
This right here is introduced copyrighted in 77. This actual image right here. This book, I don't even know where to start. Like this book is just amazing. For you, those of you that don't have it. So the reason I got this book, like I said earlier, is like my art teacher had this, and in our art class, he was teaching us pen and ink. You know, we would spend like a week on, or however long, on pen and ink, watercolor, like just introducing materials. And I think he passed this book around as like techniques of pen and ink, basically.
Yeah.
And you know, when I guess at an early age, when I was in 7th grade, when I thought of pen and ink, I thought of like, you know, Sunday comics or something like that, you know, some comic book stuff. When I saw this, it was just different. Like the way that Bernie Wrightson achieved value with just one color. Like, so basically when you're going from like these light areas to these dark areas, by just moving your pen around in different, like, so lots of, like, this right here is your cross hatching. This is when cross hatching is when the lines overlap, when it's almost like that screen door looking thing. Yeah. And that's how you get your darks. That's how you get your dark colors on something
this
like this.
way and then that way.
And then as you space everything apart, it gets lighter and lighter, lighter.
Sure.
And that's so hard to do with one color, black, you know?
Right. So he would draw like a leg, and then he would go over it like that, right?
Yeah. And what's really interesting about, like, and we'll get more into this as we get into the book, is like the way Bernie treated like line work and stuff. Like he doesn't really draw the outline of a leg. It's just lines going into it. Like you can see, like, there's no line separating the leg and the grass behind it. And I think a big inspiration that Bernie had with this stuff is woodcuts of the era. Like when you look at older books from like the 1800s and stuff, a lot of those things. Do you know who Gustave Doré is?
I know the name. We're holding on.
Paradise Lost by John Milton, right?
Yeah.
And so Gustave Doré was an illustrator from the 1800s, and he used woodcuts. He did Paradise Lost. I think Gustave Doré illustrated parts of the Bible, different versions, obviously,
Yeah.
and Dante's Inferno, that kind of stuff. And if you look, you can kind of see, I think, what Bernie was going for when he made this book is that this is another book my teacher showed us when we were learning like pen and ink. Now this is engraving, but similar, like you have like these horizontal and vertical lines that just create dark and depth, you know. The closer they are together, the darker it gets, obviously.
Right. You can see the spacing here giving it that
and if
light.
you look at like Bernie's stuff, he drew this in a very woodcut kind of way, where it's like, you know, in the woodcut, like you're etching. So like a lot of the images in this book have like a certain diagonal flow to it. I remember reading something that he was inspired by these types of works because
you can totally see it.
Yeah, like if you look how this book is written, it's like a lot of just like, I mean, it's a huge novel. It's like lots of work, and then like there'll be an illustration that just like that kind of like sums up pages and pages of dialogue and story, and that's kind of what Bernie was going for in the Frankenstein book. So when you, I know when you were talking about the EC book the other day, and you talk about who inspires who,
yeah.
Like,
so this is
this guy was from the 1800s.
This is the anchor
and
inspiration.
if you look at this, and I think Bernie's even cited where he looked at the older woodcut stuff for inspiration how to even begin with the Frankenstein book. So I think that's super fucking cool. I love Gustave Doré stuff. It's beautiful. It's just some of the most amazing, beautiful work, and you can just see what can be done with black and white. But you'll see like themes like where it's just like these horizontal and vertical lines.
What do you think the sizes of the originals for something like this are?
These plates are pretty big. I think these are like large plates. I want to say like they got to be like maybe a foot or two, you know, and like the smallest, maybe like a foot by.
Because I know some of his paintings were huge.
Yeah, and that's another cool thing. So I was lucky enough. So a couple years
one of the
ago,
things I wanted to say about this, you can see, and in just his contemporary-ish people that he was inspired by, Frazetta.
Yo, God, yeah.
Frazetta, even in the way that he did the calligraphy, like that looks like these are the lines. Like Frazetta's signature were like swords.
Yeah, Frazetta, another guy who just inspired everybody. Frazetta. I mean, like especially like this era, like the 70s guys, all doing the sci-fi horror stuff. Like I think even Bernie said at one point, like when he met Frazetta at some comic show or something, that got him into wanting to do like that kind of work, you know? So yeah, this just masterfully done. This intro page, just the perfect way to just like start the book. You know, like the word Frankenstein, it has like this kind of like gothic feel to it. This like statuesque looking stuff. Everything's lit really well. Like that's another thing about Bernie Wrightson. Oh, his strong light sources. Insane. I mean, look at this. You can just see the light is hitting this area, going down that way. You know,
see it on the back of this.
Yeah, some of these characters are shrouded in shadow. Like he just like draws completely over them in one direction and then just pushes them all back.
Yeah, like this one's peering out from behind it. And the
and that one little light. It's just like that is so hard to do. Like as an illustrator, like thinking about that as you're designing, like this is such draftsman work, you know. And compositionally, this piece is great. Like it's a great like just starting point for this book. Like it's just like this. I don't know. It's like a title card. It's amazing, you know. And this font right here, like
font's ridiculous.
It's hard enough to draw a font. This is amazing.
This is amazing. This is what it looks like to me. This is a musical note, a sword, a bunch of swords.
Yeah,
like blades.
Yeah,
it's beautiful,
and it totally fits the book. I mean, it's just like
look at how it curls all the way down.
Yeah.
It curls.
And that's something else that Bernie does really well. We're going to see this is how he draws your eye to certain areas.
Yeah.
Like he's a master at composition and having you focus on certain things. Lots of like darks to lights, lots of directional stuff.
He's a director.
Yeah.
He's a director. He's a cinematographer and a director.
So this book, it's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. There's an introduction by Stephen King. He talks about how he was inspired by, Mary Shelley. And then he goes pretty much into Bernie Wrightson, just like, you know, this is the guy. There's no other person who would have done this book, and how he was just, you know, blown away by all these images and stuff. Stephen King had Bernie Wrightson do the Creepshow book.
Right.
Just another amazing book.
Which you have regarded with such evil forebodings. I have arrived here yesterday in my first task to assure my dear sister of my welfare and increasing confidence in the success of my undertaking.
I have never really read this whole thing.
Yeah.
I've kind of poked around at it, and I know that like the Mary Shelley version it's just, I think there's been movies and stuff that more modern stuff that don't really follow the Mary Shelley like one completely, but essentially it starts off with this guy at sea. One thing I thought about is like you know, when Bernie Wrightson read this, like what images, what parts do you draw, you know?
Right.
And how do you tell this story? Because he's not drawing it sequentially, right? He's not drawing like all these actions. He's picking out these moments and he's kind of like showing it to you, giving you a feel for it. He's giving you like this
giving
mood.
us what his interpretation of the imagery is, but the scenes that move him.
Right, exactly. So like you have this guy at sea, and how do we show that? It's just like already from this image, you don't have to even read anything. You know that it's like windy because the sails are drawn.
It's possibly raining.
His beard is going horizontally.
Yeah.
And just like the motion in the sky, like he's these long strokes. He's not drawing the clouds. Like this is where to me, when I saw this stuff, it was different. Because like in comic books, you would see someone, they draw a cloud.
Yeah.
You know, they would draw like rain. Like he's using like these long strokes to just like give like length and weather. It's just like
It's giving us a feel.
yeah. And in another master composition, like look at this. It's like this black line that goes that way. It's just like your eye is drawn to this thing and this white dot that's the head. Like your eye, like, and even like it's almost like this cross right here. Like the wind and the mast. This is just such good composition, and everything about it is kind of like a really amazing way to like use pen and ink. Like the way he drapes this fabric with like these thick lines, it's just got this heavy feel to it. Like, you know, like this is like a soaked wet like mast. They're pulled back because if they're down, it's gonna blow the ship around. And I seriously love the vertical or the horizontal beard. It's just like the wind's whipping so hard,
right?
His beard is freaking horizontal,
and we know he's super high up. Like,
yeah,
you can't tell where the sky is supposed to end and where the water might begin.
And that's a good point. Like, this is like cinematography, right? Like he's high up, and like
this is a beautiful shot.
Brain does a lot. Like this would be a great shot in the movie. He's a storyboard artist, like you said. Like he can't do this sequentially, so he has to get all this information, all this mood, all this tone in this one drawing. And I think it's just masterfully achieved. It's incredible. So here we are, another just great shot. I mean, again, these swooping lines that just show you the sky is just moving, like these wavy lines where the water is just like pushing,
choppy as hell.
Look at this in this steep cliff, and if you really look at this thing, it's just vertical lines. Like
he's not
drawing cliffs. He's not drawing like anything. It's like it's these lines.
The only detail is the ship. Like that's the only thing where there's shapes. I mean, like, to me, they're going through somewhere in like the Arctic. Yeah. Because these are ice caps, or icebergs.
They are, yeah.
But the shape of the ship is the only thing that looks like, that's not just a vertical line.
And I love how with like the marks on like this piece of landmass here, it's all diagonal lines. He's not etching in anything else. It's just like it just shows you how where the light hits, how the light falls on the side of the cliffs,
and it does enough to show us the difference between water and land. And I don't even know how to explain what he did. Because but I know what he's doing.
It's just a way that this guy is using ink that not a lot of people were doing. I mean, yes. I mean, like I just showed you some people who did it a long time ago. He has such an understanding about this, making clouds look soft with diagonal lines. Like he's not like drawing like my instinct would be to draw like these bubbly soft clouds using lots of like round shapes, and he's not doing that. There's no round shapes. The round shapes are achieved through negative space on these vertical lines. That's technically really hard to do. It's such a difficult process, you know.
Also, I'd just like to point out, and I'm sure it's not done purposefully, but definitely looks like we're looking at a skull face right there. Eye, nose, mouth.
Composition. It works so well because you have the dark sky and the mast. Like really, the most important thing is this lone ship at sea, and it feels lonely. I mean, it feels like it's like, you know, a ship is big, right? But it seems so small in like this daunting sea with like these sheer cliffs and like this element of weather. You know, like again, he's just creating so much mood with just in scale. In such an achievement in scale too, which is also hard to do. You know?
Showing us the cliffs are huge. The ship is also huge, but the ocean's always going to be bigger.
It's really cool.
I love it that he always signed his work. Thus far have I gone, chasing the secure way over the pathless sea. He's pulling quotes from the book. and he's giving that to the image too.
Yeah. And so they find this guy at sea, and I think they find Frankenstein. I think this is the Dr. Frankenstein guy. And again, like just the achievements in this pen and ink, like things like pushing this back with like these subtle lines.
Right.
There's this technique in art called aerial perspective, and what it is as things go into the distance, they get lighter. You know, like if you look at like sky or like mountains, a mountain range, the aerial perspective means that like there's atmosphere in between all the mountain ranges.
That's why some mountains look like they're blue.
Yes.
And then some look like they're, green and lush.
Right. So, but how do you do it with ink?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do it
with no
ink?
color?
With no color, right? So what he's doing is he's just softening this line up by basically creating more space between the lines. Like this is so thick together, it's close, and he's like separating it, and like he's pushing this back with ink. It's just that's awesome. It's so hard to do. And again, like
you're always going to be, I mean, like he did it on purpose. You're drawn to that dude's face.
Yeah, because also it's the most rendered thing on this image. Like everything else has like these kind of like swooping lines. Like this arm right here has no line that separates it from the background, but then you have like this very detailed thing here. Like this is all kind of like done in a soft swooping way, so this is your focal point. There's no mistake, this is your focal point. You know, like even this face right here, it's very detailed, but it's all in the same value. It's pushed back.
How did he make that a face?
Like my instinct, I would never draw lines over a face because I would think I would just make it look like I'd be scratching it out. But he can have this super rendered face, all of the same value, but it pushes it back into shadow. You know, it's just so well done. And then he does stuff like this where the hard white light separates the background from this guy. So like these are your two focal points. Like he makes it sure that you know, like this is it. Like the conversation between these two guys is what's happening here. You know, it's just a really
there's so much
orchestrated page. Again, it's cinematography. Like if you were to shoot this as in a movie, this will be your shot.
And he managed to get the best actors. He looks angry, but he also looks like, something bad. He's bringing something bad onto this boat.
Yeah. Oh, and that's his expressions. I mean, like,
the expressions.
We can look at the line work and everything, but Bernie was also just like master at like anatomy and just expression. Like he knows how to draw a figure. I mean, he muscle proportions of the human figure and expressions. Like you can look at this guy. This guy isn't saying anything. His mouth isn't open, but he's got like this deadpan glare. This guy is just like wrecked. And it's just in the eyes, and that's like where everything is kind of focusing on that. Like the beard and the hair are super dark to frame this face. That's no accident right there. He used like this person's like facial hair to frame this spot right here, and the eyes are like right in the center of it. So good.
It is. It's stupid.
I get excited just by looking at it. I love this book so much. All right, so here this is a page I really like because as an artist, there's certain things that are super hard to draw, and like rain on stuff is like, how do you make something look wet? Right? How do you make something look wet when you're just using ink?
And how do you make something look wet on two different?
Like
this reflection of the water.
This is such a good effect, right?
Yeah.
And first of all, he frames it. Like we have like these images here. This is the frame of the piece. When you look at a hard contrast, that's not a mistake. I mean, that's super intentional. So he frames this character with these drapes, and we know that this character is like, he's on this like soft thing, like the soft little bay window, and the rain hitting the window and reflecting in with the shadow. That's like level 10 hard, dude. That's just like,
I don't know how you would do that.
No, like if I were to draw that, it would look like wallpaper or just like melting like wall.
Right.
But this is like, there's no mistake. It's raining outside. You don't even see the raindrops.
You hear it.
Yeah.
But you hear it hitting against the window. You hear the thunder, the lightning, whatever's causing the light source.
Yeah.
You hear it.
You don't see the raindrops. You don't see the rain actually move. Because a lot of people draw rain like that kind of like horizontal, like those little diagonals. You just see like this kind of pattern that we all recognize as rain. And we know that it's like a moody day. Like we've all had these days where we're just sitting inside, and like it's like we can relate to this picture.
Yeah,
you know, like this. That's what's so good about this.
It's a mood. Like this.
Yeah,
this whole thing is a mood.
Absolutely.
And I can relate to writing a novel with a feather pen. That's an amazing though. Like
amazing
to understand what is happening
outside the window
Yeah.
without even seeing outside the window.
This is so cool. I love this image because like there's no solid black here. You know, when you're drawing something like this, you want to your first inkling is to like draw some shapes, draw some like paneling, some lines up, but he's doing all this like in this splotchy kind of like, this isn't even cross hatching because like there's no lines that really crisscross.
Right.
It's like this kind of like
just lines.
patchwork stuff, you know, but it gives movement to this thing. That's that like it doesn't feel like a static image to me. It does feel like there is like some weather out here that's kind of creeping in. It is daunting. You have like this whole wall like frames this little thing right here. Again, adding scale, like you know, like this is a huge
Giant
mansion.
door,
It's a big door. It's heavy. Like the outside elements are creeping in. Like this seems like way more than just an entryway. Like it seems like a little bit ferocious to me, you know. And that's what I like about this. Like this, what otherwise could be a boring just like entryway doorway. There's just like movement and like weight to this. Like I remember one of my art teachers always said, like, how do you draw weight in something? Like, how do you make something look heavy?
Yeah.
You know, and like I feel like this door looks heavy and like this wall looks massive. Technically a difficult thing to do sometimes.
And the lightning bolt looks massive too. Because
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what we're supposed to think, that lightning hit something or something's on fire.
Yeah. It's just another really interesting way to show a doorway.
Yeah.
You know, and scale, you know.
There's
and
a lot of
weather.
rain in this book.
Yeah, there's a lot of other weather in this book too, and he does a really good job showing it. And this is awesome. This is just like such a detailed piece, you know. Wrightson, Windsor Smith, Kaluta, and Jeff Jones all had the studio, and around the same time as this too. That was in the 70s, you know. So you can imagine that these guys were all hanging out. And that's one thing I really love about Bernie Wrightson, and also those artists who are some of my favorites, is just the idea of like this community network hangout art studio. It just seems like such a inspiring, motivational. Like they're some of the greats. I mean, those guys are each on their own did amazing work forever. Like their legacy is incredible, and just that they all shared a studio to me is just like mind blowing. It's just like it's like one of those
so much
super
prolific.
bands.
Yeah,
you know, like,
it was a super group. It's prolific work, and Kaluta is one of those guys that like you could see pieces of Kaluta and Wrightson in each of their work, but you could see so much Kaluta in so many other artists that came after him. I'm not as familiar with Jones and his work. I obviously know who he is. And then Windsor Smith.
Yeah,
there's something that guy does, same as Bernie, where like they drink in different Kool-Aid and they're their own islands.
Yeah, they sold their soul or something like that.
Yeah,
man. They're just incredible.
Yeah, this is. I mean, like I see what's going on in the scene without even seeing what's going on in the scene. You know, he's talking to a bunch of scientists.
Scale. Like he's showing that this like this board of scientists. You have like this figure that's mostly dark, so the background can be detailed, and this guy still stands out in front of it. Lots of shadowing pushing these figures back, but their faces are illuminated. And then this right here, just everything is framed so well together. Like again, just telling this story. Like you can tell like this guy is in front of this board talking about something that's just like his work, like his scientific work. It's like right there.
Yeah,
you know, it's just like, again, not using sequential panels, but telling the story with one real image.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
His use of shapes too. I love what shapes he's created in the windows.
Yeah, he'll go like very organic with like the figures and things like that. Then he'll have something like very architectural to kind of like balance it out. You know, this is just incredible.
Whoa. I don't think I've ever seen this one.
Yeah, and so I think this might. So I went to the Guillermo del Toro exhibit back when it was touring around, and you familiar with that?
Yeah. He's got a lot of
It's
originals.
all it's all of his personal artwork. It's Del Toro's collection. So things that he's bought and purchased over the years. And he had like 6 or 8 Bernie Wrightson pieces from this book. And they were big. I want to say that they were like 18 inches by 24 inches, maybe like a little bit larger. But like when you look at the images in person, your mind's blown. Like that's another thing I wanted to touch on. He's not using white ink. Like, so a lot of the times when someone's inking or doing some brush work, they'll use white to cut some detail. You know, Bernie Wrightson wasn't doing any of that. He didn't when I was looking at these pieces, there's no like real evidence of white ink, maybe in his signature. He's cutting into all this with just brushwork. So he's drawing all this stuff and using the white as just like, he's not drawing the white part. My mind approaches it like, oh, I would just put some white smoke up there. I would just use white ink or white ink or white paint.
He's illustrating around it.
Exactly. He's hatching in. He's using the the thickness of the pen and the distances between the lines to make these value adjustments, like the dark values, light values. He's going in there and cutting these lines in a little different. The amount of detail he can put in here and just it's mind blowing.
Do you think somebody like him would do prelims? Like he would do layouts and stuff?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
I feel like you couldn't do something.
I think
like
with
this
something
without
this
layouts.
technical, you kind of have to, because like there's just so much planning that's going into this. Like not only is this architecturally like really complicated.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure he has reference shots, photos, maybe of something, lots of sketches. But yeah, I think you have to go into this with some kind of game plan, you know? Again, just a master of like just composition as far as like this dark shape down here just frames this. There's a lot going on here. It's very busy, but it's mostly a dark shape.
Sure.
That's really framing this character, and you're having like this light source right here. So like this light is just helping frame the entire thing.
Beautiful.
And like this huge cast shadow up here, that just like this big block.
Yeah.
So well done. Drawing glass with just long lines is so hard to do. Like,
and then he puts liquids in some of them.
Yeah. Technically fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
And then this.
Talk about light.
Yeah. This is incredible. Again, light source, so much detail. And you look at this detail and it's like, it looks a bit clunky sometimes because like you can't make out certain shapes. You can't see where the arm starts and stops, where the shoulder is. But you don't need to. You know, it's like a death sculpture. Like it's pushed back far enough. Like in real life, if you were to like light this and shoot this for a set, you wouldn't see all that stuff because this character would be pushed back. You wouldn't see every single articulation of the feature. So
another figure. Back
so he softens up his drawing as far as like softening the lines up, making so it's a little bit unintelligible, and tightening up this stuff. Like this is tight right here. That face is super tight. This is tight, you know. That's a painter style too. Like John Singer Sargent was very famous with that. Like he would have like these wispy characters dancing, and the lines and the arms would be so soft, and the face would be really detailed, and it created this focal point. You know, it was just another way to make a focal point that much stronger.
You're also trying to convey the creepiness, and so figures you can't quite make out in the background, it does something to your brain. Like, what am I looking at?
Yes.
I don't know what this is.
Yes.
This is freaking me out. I mean, some of the tricks that our minds play on us in real life when we're in the fog or we're in a dark room and you think you see something, you know, like that's the beauty of horror.
That's a really good point. You're right. Like if in a horror movie, the scare is like what's kind of hidden back there, right? So like this page, you're like, oh, your mind is drawn here, and it's like, okay, like this guy's holding this light, but holy shit,
what the hell is that over there?
Like this demons and shit in the back. It's just like that. This is horror. You're totally right. Yeah,
he knew what he was doing.
Again, an amazing drawing. this character is just draped. It's obviously dead. You know, like he's just like drooping. He's been dead for a while. I think this is the Frankenstein cadaver that becomes the monster. He's holding the hand. The hand is limp. Another way, like I said earlier, how do you show weight? You know, like this hand is just dead. It's like lifeless. You know, this hand is lifeless. Again, telling this story with one panel is just great.
Yeah, this
so
is
good.
Classic image.
This might be one of the ones that I think Del Toro had. I feel like this was one he had in his collection.
Beautiful.
So cool. Strong lighting. You know the light source is coming this way.
Yeah.
The vein work is just, again, not drawing like the veins. He's just drawing like these diagonal lines. It's just a really strong way to do this again, but it goes back to that kind of like etching style, you know?
This one's so iconic and so famous. It's like,
but again, storytelling, like, you know, this is like a gasp. Like this character is like coming to life. And again, around all this, like these scientific beakers and things like that. Like this tells you that like this thing is creeping up, you know, like some kind of like scientific experiment was happening. Like so much storytelling is happening here in this panel. The job is done. Like he's doing such a great job telling stories.
It's alive.
That's so sick.
Gigantic too. Probably like 6'7".
Yeah.
This fucking thing.
What a
monster.
What a great, like, there's so much like, so like atmospherically, like just pushing all this back right here. This image is like the definition of like what is a good focal point. The dark to the light, the hard detail, soft. When I say soft, I mean like there's no detail here other than like these swooping lines. This drapery helps
It's got a
frame this
little
character.
pattern, yeah.
This is such a good image. It's so good. It's so horrifying too. It's easy to make a monster look scary. You just like make it look kind of like crazy, lots of teeth. You can make something, but there's like a calm that is in this image.
Very.
Like you look at this and he doesn't look like he's like gonna kill him. He doesn't look like he's screaming. He doesn't look like
sad, actually.
He does. There's like this like sadness in his eyes, and even though his mouth is just teeth, he's not like snarling. It's like this kind of like calm, like this, I don't know, like atrophied mouth he has or something. But again, he's just like this ripped monster, and he does such a good job making him look just like, I don't know, calm.
And
that's hard. That's so
not,
hard to do.
Not aggressive, not threatening,
Yeah.
but he is threatening because he's all muscle.
Yeah.
And like the veins, you could see the veins. So like you almost get confused when you look at this image. Is he about to kill him, or is he like, why'd you make me?
And look at the body language he did with Dr. Frankenstein. Like he's clutching, like
he's scared.
The way his shoulders are pushed back and like you can tell like he's lurching back. He's been awoken by something and he's startled. The body language between these two, it just tells the story even more. You know, like again, storytelling. Like this is just such a good work of just like communication between these two characters.
Yeah,
so awesome.
It's a great shot. The director nailed the shot.
Yeah, again, every like you said, every shot is like it could be something from a movie. Another thing, so something he does here in this book a lot is interior shots, exterior shots. The exterior shots, like this feels like daylight. This feels what we've seen the last few months have been so dark, and now we're like, no mistake, we're in the day. I mean, like you can tell like it's just light out, you know, and to make a scene look like it's day with pen and ink is tough. Like he's putting ink all over this page, yet we can tell it's daytime. You know? And just we know this character's deep in the field, isolation,
staring at the mountains,
again, wind blowing without showing it. Like the character's
grass is
the character's like cape is like horizontal, like all the grass is flowing. You know everything is going in the right direction. Like right. You know, like grass is going right. All the clouds are swooping in right.
You can also see there's a little town up there.
Yeah.
There's dinosaur eggs, so we're about to get some big dinosaurs. It's amazing, and the rocks give you a little bit perspective and how big this one is. You know,
and he does interesting things like to separate different texturing techniques, like lots of like this kind of like blowing stuff, and then like a hard field of just white. Just nothing.
We know that's just grass or dirt.
But it's done so intentionally to separate these two textures.
Yeah,
because you know that there's a feel between these two. That's so smart. It's just like a really good use of design and knowing when to use textures and when not to use textures. You know,
it's stupid good.
It's so good. And this is like one of my favorite panels because it's snowing.
Yeah,
and you can tell like he's not even drawing the tops of these snow caps. It's just blank. It's blown out. But you know, this whole panel is just covered in snow. It's blanketed in snow, and it feels. The snow feels thick. It feels heavy. It's using like this minimalist approach with pen and ink. Like he's just vertically drawing these lines up this tombstone, and he's stopping at the right moments, and it's just showing a snowpack on top of it. The focal point is like this dark character and the dark tombstone. It's just in the middle. Like you just know, boom, boom. Like this is what's the center point.
Yeah,
and everything else around it is just a white snow field.
It's minimalist with the maximum effect.
And like this graveyard is just scattered with graves.
It's also on a hill.
It's everywhere, and like it's got this cluttered feel, but there's not much to it. Like some of these gravestones are 15, 20 vertical lines, and they read as tombstones.
Yeah.
You know, and like some of them are knocked over, some of them are stilted.
There's steps right there.
Right, you know that steps, and you know it's steps not because he draws the steps, he draws the sides of them. Like what the hell? Like this is so good. It's so good.
It's a beautiful perspective because it's a tiered cemetery on a hill.
Yeah,
that looks down on the town.
That's a hard shot
church.
to draw.
Yeah,
like the way the perspective is going down, like that's not an easy angle to draw.
No.
Yeah, so like that's what I'm saying. When he's choosing these images to draw, he could have drawn this from any angle. He could have drawn anything, but he chose this super difficult angle with this super difficult like
maybe
pen and ink style.
How his brain worked. Though.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. It's like it's just that genius brain, and I'm not using that lightly. And this man is a genius.
He was a genius.
Yeah. this is in the mid 70s. I think he was like in his 30s,
Yeah.
mid 30s when he drew that. And like, to me, that's just mind blowing. Like,
Right.
you know, I think of myself and anyone I know in their 30s, and like no one I knew, their brain didn't work like this.
Right.
You know, like this guy was just creating masterful work back then at such a young age.
Yeah, I'd never seen this panel before.
It's incredible. Yeah. Even the trees, like these like rings, you know, like these kind of like rings.
It's like a pine.
For those of you who don't have this book, you really have to get like a copy of this book and just like look at some of the lines in this close up. It's just these vertical and horizontal lines that they just kind of stop and they form like a circle. Like, he didn't draw a circle here. It's just lines going up to make this kind of circle. This is so good because it's just like this black shape, right? Like, when you look at this shape, you know that there's a figure there. Mm-hmm. Again, like, you have to know anatomy so well to do something like this. To have a figure with a droopy kind of like cape, a coat, to have them leaning, but to not draw the legs or the hips or the back, like,
or anything. It's anything. It's right. a foot, a hand.
You have a foot, and a hand, and hair to kind of like give you the keys that this is a human being. But you know it is. You know it's like this huge figure. And this is a super helpful key also. Like, if you didn't have that, it'd be harder to tell.
Right.
But because you have this figure and that figure, you know it's a standoff.
And we know that he's menacingly taller than him, and he's scared shitless.
Yeah.
It's raining.
Yeah.
I love the white being the rain.
Yeah.
Like, he just scratched. Oh.
The choices he made to tell the story, like, he didn't have to show this character's face.
Sure.
To know that he's menacing. He gave us the features of this face to know that. And that's a decision that's like, it's what makes good art. It's what makes good storytelling. You know, like, that's how we know that this character is menacing. Not only his size, his stature, his shape, it's this person's reaction. And the way he drew this, which all you see is one eyeball.
Yeah.
Like, you just
half of his face at most.
It's the way it's the way he's kind of cocked back a little bit.
The body
Again,
language.
Knowing anatomy, he knows anatomy so well. He can do these things, and we feel this. We know what this is, you know. And we know it's raining. We know it's like a stormy night.
It's windy as shit.
It's windy as shit. Like, you don't want to see this guy on the edge of a forest on a hill like this in the storm. You know what this fear is. If you saw this out there, I would be terrified.
That's the thing about Frankenstein, though. Like, that's the greatest thing about this too. Is like, he wasn't really a monster. He was just dead. He became alive, and you know, somebody tried to control him that created him.
He made this character and didn't know what he made. He was kind of like he was scared that he actually kind of did it. I think.
Yeah.
I love this image, and I love it because this thing looks wet, dude.
Oh,
I mean, you have this character. It's like when you would put something like a painting in the rain that you just did, and then hold up, and it just droops down.
Yeah.
Everything in this panel is going vertically down, you know, like this it's drenched, it's soaking wet, you know, except for like these rings of water which key you in on like, oh, this is a creek here,
right?
Everything is just wet.
The tree's heavier, like, you could see it's heavier. He's miserable. He's absolutely miserable.
Yeah. And everything is just like, when it's like raining, everything's just like, it's just going south. You know?
Do you think he drew this and then just went?
No, I mean, he probably did some penciling, but every line was just down.
Yeah,
you know? Like, it's all vertical lines. I mean, he probably sketched out something. I can only assume. He probably sketched out like the architecture of the land and and like the anatomy of the person. And then when he went to inking, it's just all vertical lines just going down. And you know, he might have followed through with like how like he might have drawn a very detailed tree. Who knows? But when it came to ink to paper, it's just vertical lines going down, 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 and
beautiful.
It really is. It's crazy how this can feel wet to me.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of Luke sitting in Dagobah.
Yeah,
miserable when it's
miserable,
raining.
Right? Yeah. Miserable.
Oh wow.
Yeah, really good. Just again, movement, you know, like
slight breeze.
You can tell like this character is just like swinging.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like that goes back to like what you're talking about horror. He could have showed her just kind of like hanging, whatever, but he chose to like tilt it a little bit and show some movement, because when you see that in horror films, it's always like creaking, you know,
it gives you a noise. It gives you some audible feeling. You can tell it's not super windy, but it's breezy.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just things that would normally sway in the breeze anyway. Dead body obviously is not normal, but grass, hair, and cloth There's some terror right here.
Yeah, you can tell
There
that this
really
person is like,
yeah.
this guy is kind of like comforting this woman who's like crying.
Mm-hmm.
Just
But
adds to it.
a little
Stark
house.
white background. He didn't put any like wind in there because this image was fine without it. Like, it is powerful enough, you know.
Oh, this is amazing. I'm seeing a lot of this for the first time, everybody.
I read somewhere he made 50 images and they published, I think, 40 or 44. There's another book that came out after this that shows the extra like 6 to 10 that came out. I'm not sure why they got cut or what, but
could have been page count, could have been, you know, cost.
This is almost like that rainy panel where, like, in that panel everything was going up and down. This one's everything's going right and left. But again, atmospheric perspective, it's just like as things go further back, they get lighter and lighter. And it's just again, like the way he can get there, you know, like when you look at this stuff, it's just like these simple lines. Like, he's not drawing a beach, he's not drawing trees. Like, if you look at this, it's just like these small vertical lines against a field of like horizontal lines. Like, it's such a good use of pen and ink. It's such a confidence he has when he's doing this.
Yeah,
so well done. You know, like, he's creating all this depth and distance by just changing the spacing of the lines. You know, we don't see like anything different here. Like this right, these vertical horizontal lines are the same as these, but like they're just pushed different,
and these are
different distances. You know, like that is so difficult, and it's so well done. Like, you don't need anything else.
This
you know,
is so unique. Like, this is so special.
Yeah,
this book.
This is cool. This is an image that, like, I like it because it just shows such a hard contrast of like dark and light, you know, like landmass, the tops of it. Like, it's like those glaciers that have like that plunge.
Yeah. That's exactly what it looks like to me.
It feels like that. It's like, okay, you know the spots you can walk on, because if you walk off that, you're probably going to plunge like, 80 feet to your death in the middle of a glacier, you know? But again, showing like scale and distance, wind, the clouds. And I remember when we were in school, like, this is the kind of ink work our teacher would have us try and do. He's just like, all right, instead of like trying to draw rocks and draw things like that, try and do it with a texture, you know, like just the fact that there's like a value change can get so much more done than actually drawing certain things, you know? So it was like a study of like this super light value, which is the white, and just any kind of like texture, which would show a change in direction, basically, like that, you know? Damn. Masterfully done. Again, movement, you know, like there's so much movement in the water going this way as it hits the rock. Like, this bigger stream is like, you know, like you can tell like the water's passing past the rock, you know, and the reflections from the trees. That's super hard to do. Like, he's drawing like these trees, but he's also shaking this line up to give it that kind of movement, you know, framing. Like, he puts so much dark shape behind this person to jut that person out, you know?
Right. So we know what we're supposed to look at.
Yeah. A thing that he does very effectively in this book is drawing your eye to a certain place. Yeah. You know, and you look right there first, and then you kind of like look around and see what else is going on, which helps you kind of like fill the mood for it. This one I used to draw a lot when I was a kid, because I just like that monster just running. Yeah, fleeing the village. Yeah, so cool. Like this dark shape just fleeing, but just drawing buildings so well. I mean, that itself is just, it's so technically difficult to do.
And then drawing the people that are staring out the windows. Yeah. Who are like, what's going on? Like, even that person back there. Yeah. There's a lot, like he does it in this. He draws you to this, but then something he does, I guess, must be the buildings that eventually just draws you to see this. So you know exactly why he's fleeing and like what the reason is that we're supposed to care about this page. Yeah. Because a monster running through town is nothing. A monster running through town with everybody wondering what's going on. And this guy, I don't know if he's trying to trip him or he's trying to they're chasing him. Guy, yeah, they're chasing him because there's that person there. Yeah, it's just like, it's a great action shot.
Yeah, but this character is just shrouded in dark. Yeah, you know, like everything about it is pushed back into shadow. The shadow of the building kind of helps assist that, you know. But yeah, it's like this like mysterious shape running through town, you know.
It's funny. It's the opposite of what he's doing with a lot of other images, where he's shining a light on what you're supposed to look at. He's putting it in shadow. Yeah, and you're supposed to look at it.
Yeah, that's a good way to just have like focal points, is having a dark and a light side by side. You know, like this character is super dark and the background is light. There's like these rules of focal points, how you can kind of get there with like certain shapes or certain colors. And like, because there's no color in this, you have to use value. And I mean, value, it's like dark to light, You know, like the abruptness of the dark light, the dark shade to the light background is a way to get a good focal point.
Here's
And
my
he
question.
does it all the time.
Who threw the frying pan?
It's
The fucking frying pan just sitting right there in the middle of the.
Yeah. Her arms up. I bet she kind of dropped.
Yeah,
it on
there
him.
you go.
Just so good at detail.
Yeah.
You know, like you know that this field is just it's just a field. I mean, it's not just a field, but like it's grass, it's cattails. You know, there's like weeds and stuff in there. It's this lonesome house out here. You know, again, telling the story, like you just know, like it's just like this isolated farmhouse. You know, on the edge of a forest, like all like these kind of trees, and
Yeah.
look at these trees, like you can barely see them, but you know it's
they're
there.
yeah.
It makes for like a thick
just
forest.
a little bit of line.
Yeah. Like this dark field with like some tiny line work goes in there. It gives you like the edge of a forest.
And maybe the reason why you put those two trees there is that you're like, that's clearly a tree. So when you see that same kind of pattern,
it does. And that's something that he does a lot in this. Like it's like giving you information to decipher certain things else in the picture. Like if that wasn't there, you probably wouldn't see these trees.
Yeah.
But because you do see these trees here,
your brain tells you.
Because he gives you this, like these two right here, you know there's a bunch here, you know?
Sure.
Plus again, another that same focal point thing I was just talking about, the abrupt dark to light shift, that's where your eye is drawn to. Like at this, that the focal point is the cottage. And how we get there? Yeah, let's show the cottage first, and you kind of like fill in all the blanks. This is one I used to draw a lot as a kid.
Just enough face.
Yeah,
to show you.
Push back. You know, he gives you the arm again. And his anatomy is so good. When we go comic hunting, you know, lots of the DC horror books, they don't always say the artist on the front, but like there's certain keys where you can that's a Bernie piece. I can tell like a Bernie piece because of like how he draws like his anatomy and stuff, you know.
His lines, yeah.
This doesn't say Bernie Wrightson on it, but and that one
it does.
Yeah. Oh, it says Wrightson going down. Yeah.
But even if you didn't see that,
but like the way he draws his forearms and stuff, like you can tell, and like how he has like these swooping cross hatches and stuff, like that's some Bernie stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And the faces too, but it's the line work. It's the line work for sure.
It's how he builds his anatomy. Like he has like this way of doing it, and that's what's fun. I remember like when we go come like, oh, you're like, this is a Bernie piece. Like you just know.
You just know. Yeah.
It's like this kind of feeling you get, and for me, it's like that right there. Like that's a Bernie arm right there.
Yeah,
it totally.
Kaluta's the only one that comes close to confusing me.
Yeah, Kaluta's a little different. I can tell sometimes by the way he has like no background sometimes in his pieces. Like he has like very kind of like sharp shapes sometimes. This is so good too. Another just
hiding
the dark to light. I mean, you see it in every piece. It's just like that's your little focal point right there. Like that's the emotion. Like this guy, he's like in this kind of crate. He's just trying to like look out. That's what the story is telling you. Then everything else is like it gives you more hints. Like okay, it's like this dark, drab place where it's just like this old, boarded up, broken. It's just all these other things just kind of like assist to like what this is the story is. And also again like. Going back to how good he is at anatomy and expressions, like this quote unquote monster, he looks so calm and serene there.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's melancholy.
It really is. Like he just wants a little bit, like you can tell that he's seeking something
right
from like a good place.
But he can't come out of where he is or hiding or not draw too much attention to himself. But
and then this shape, this body is like this bulky thing. But then there's like this amazingly drawn arm, you know, like it's just again how well he is, how good he is at anatomy, you know, like he doesn't have to draw like the shoulder or like the ribs, the back like that. It's just you have like these clues, these keys, that,
right?
Like,
you connect the dots. The rest, your brain does the rest when you're looking at this stuff.
Yeah, the dark to light, you know, all this super loose. And I don't want to call it loose because like there's so much work put into it.
Sure.
But like he's not rendering each rock. He's not rendering very specific things. Like he's leaving the line work very, very loose. And it just gives you like this feeling of like foliage and landscape. You know, it's just the way he does it is so well done.
The horse is great.
And the horse is all vertical lines.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, the horse and the trees, they almost
like
meld together. And then you have this ivy covered tree kind of separating the two.
Right.
You know, like this is again, like he's giving us this clue, like
ear is vertical lines.
Yeah. These little things to know, okay, like there is a foreground between the horse and like these trees, you know? It's so intentional. It's just, nothing's an accident. Even how loose this is, nothing's an accident. It's all just really well thought out.
What is that?
I think it's a book. He's reading a book.
Oh yeah,
And he's probably tossing
he's
the books
throwing
into the
them.
field.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, dark
Like,
shape against a white
monsters getting
background.
Smarter.
That's our focal point right
Yeah.
there. Obviously, this big open field again, isolation.
Right. He's
You know?
he's far away from everybody, just
Yeah.
reading books that he took somewhere. Or,
How do we know he's throwing these books into the field? Well, there's this huge field.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, he's been here for quite a while. You know, like it's piece.
and he's
This
back in there.
this is tough to do. Like
yeah,
this shadow that falls over a very textured.
through the slats.
You know that this is a very like straw covered ground, but it's completely blown out. Like the light's so strong. It's not like he drew every single thing. Like
Right.
he actually like omitted some of the line work there because the light is so strong right there.
That you wouldn't. Right. You were just seeing the light.
so
you can't
bright.
see the detail of what it's on.
Yeah. When you're drawing, that's a tough one to think about.
So much emotion in the character without seeing a lick of his face. You see an eyeball.
Yeah.
That's
just an
all
eye.
you see, and there's so much emotion in that.
Yeah.
You
You
can
can tell like
feel
there's
it.
frustration because like how he's
Yeah.
punching the paper.
He's angry. He's sad. He's frustrated.
Yeah.
And he's lonely. All that from nothing.
Yeah.
From seeing nothing.
No dialogue box is telling us that.
Yeah.
No sequential panel.
Yeah.
No series of actions is telling us that. You just get it from like this. He can draw body language.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah, that's tough to do. Okay,
Yeah. Fire.
this not only fire, like how hot is this
Yeah.
fire? I mean,
How
you
bright
see,
is it burning?
you see tiny pieces of branch there. You know that this thing is just like an inferno. It's just burning so hot.
Mhm.
You came in like even the flames are blown out. You know. And you can, but you can tell it's a fire because like a few things. First of all, the smoke billowing out,
Sure.
and he's like batting it with like a torch or
Right.
he's batting it with
He's-
something, you
he's-
know.
He's keeping his distance, but he's trying to get
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, again the focal point contrast, black at the dark and on the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shadow there.
And like he's just really drawing the spaces in between the branches, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So good, man. Oh, so good.
Oh wow.
Oh, this is so cool. Again, this makes me think of the one in the beginning where it had like the raindrops on the window, like to cast shadows of branches against a flowing coat. It's just like it's like try and hit that moving car from 100 feet away with a rock. It's like the things he's trying to do on one thing. It's like he's not only is the coat flowing really
He's
well,
doing multiple.
he's
things.
having a cast shadow that is a tree lit from a hot. It's just difficulty on top of difficulty on top of difficulty. He's doing it right here, you know, and it works.
He's an
It's
all-star.
not like it's not. I'm not confused when I see.
No,
this.
no, not
It
at all.
speaks really strongly, you know.
She's dead or maybe passed out.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's raining. It's windy.
Yeah, and you know, like again, like the action here, dude, is like again, focal point, the dark gun against the white, you know,
Yeah.
and you know it's pointing this way. Boom, his arm. There's movement. There's pieces. There's chunks coming out. This has so much movement to it. Like you can tell he's turning because the coat,
Right.
this
and
thing is-
the
this-
force.
like the gun's going off. He's spinning. Like the sun's coming through the branches. Like there's so much going on here, you know.
Oh, that's a famous one.
That's such a
yeah.
good piece. Inspiration wise, I've seen some Frazetta type of stuff
For sure.
Where like, especially that what's that one EC book he did the cover of?
And it's the one that's in the
Science
cover book.
fiction.
It's science fantasy. No.
There's like some characters that are falling off the cliff, and I know that weird science fantasy. Okay,
Yeah.
just like characters falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
With lots of like forceful movement ideas, you know, like I know that Bernie's a fan of like Frazetta,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm sure Bernie saw that cover at some
Yeah.
point, but like this is its own masterpiece.
Yeah.
You know, like this character's falling down in this with so much force, and it just like kind of clear your head. Like this is just an object that's just pointing down. I mean, it's just like it's just going in that direction.
He's trying to stop it.
It's
It's
almost like an arrow that's just being shot down. you
Yeah.
know? And this right here, like this, it's so good. You know, it's just like,
the speed lines.
Yeah.
He turned the whole character into speed lines.
yeah,
I think that's what you would call that, right?
yeah, sure.
It's definitely different than everything else that he,
Yeah.
you know, like you could. There's motion.
Yeah, and again, like I want to like really hammer this in, like that anybody who's a fan of Bernie Wrightson who hasn't had a chance to get this book, get it, because like there's so much that you need to look at closely, like things like this cape. He's not drawing the shape of this circle, like what I'm saying, like he's not drawing arc. He's bringing the dark lines to a point without drawing that shape, and so he's giving this cloak like billowing, soft, like billowing flappiness, and it's all vertical lines. It's all lines going in the direction of the way the guy is falling.
Yeah.
You know, it's just how he's showing movement in speed, and just
even the cloth he's wearing is just like
Mhm.
there's these lines that are
Yeah.
just straight lines or vertical lines.
yeah. I can see what he's doing. I can go, oh yeah, it's diagonal lines, but it still doesn't quite compute. You know, it's just
Yeah.
like, how does this man think this way?
Well, so there's this one.
Yeah. So this is the image that's probably most famous with this book. I think,
Especially with the quote.
yeah, and I think it's the cover image not only for this book, but I think you see this a lot in in a lot of posts like that. And I remember looking at this as a kid, and this is the kind of thing. It's almost like a Where's Waldo page.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can just look at this for so long and just see there's like beakers and pages and syringes and dial, like all these different
skulls,
things.
and I think there's a rat or two in here.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, there's another body on the table there.
Yeah, another cadaver he's been working on.
Yeah.
But just again, the focal point right here, and it just tells you the story that this man is just a mad scientist. I mean, this is madness. Like, it's sheer madness, and just detail. Like, I've always been a fan of detail when it comes to work. Like, you see it in my work. Like, I love over rendering things, putting lots of things in there, and like inspiration wise, so much that comes from this book. Just seeing what someone can do to fill up space and make such an interesting page. This to me is like one of my favorite Bernie pieces ever. I mean, everything about this piece is amazing.
Hyper detail is amazing to see because for like it boggles the mind. Like, to me, the first time I saw this, it's like, how could somebody illustrate this and have other time to do anything else?
Yeah.
And it's such, like, if you look at just this, it gives you like, okay, we're in a laboratory. It's old laboratory. It's dusty. It's dark. Maybe it's vacant. Maybe the person's dead. But then you see this and you're like, oh my God, the Frankenstein monster's about to rip him apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just, I can't believe I had this print and I got rid of it.
And this is one of the first times at least in this book, where we see the Frankenstein monster really mad.
Yeah.
Like, we see the expression of like anger in his face. Because before it was a very soft, calm,
he's
sadness.
terrifying.
Yeah. This is terrifying, and he's a bigger person. And like, again, the scale, like, he's just in this bull in a china shop, just like, he's going to wreck this dude.
Just unbelievable. Such an amazing piece of art.
It's just one, like, every piece is like a masterclass in pen and ink. Like I said, like, when I was a kid, I was learning how to like draw with different materials and learn pen and ink. Like, this was the book that I would look at all the time. I redrew this book. I redrew pages from this book. I would just trace them. I would just like try and trace. And that's how, as a young artist, like, I'm talking like, junior high, that's how you learn. Like, you just draw your heroes. You know?
And it's so weird. I always thought when I was a kid, like, tracing was a bad thing to do.
No,
they try to frown upon it when you're in school.
It depends. I mean, I wouldn't trace now as a professional,
sure,
right?
But like, I mean, as a kid, like, you just, I had no problem with it. It's just, it's how you mimic work. Like, I learned anatomy by like tracing over. Now I'm like, okay, that's the size of a shoulder proportion to a face. Like, I learned how to form compositions by tracing. And there must be some hidden trauma in my head, because I think somebody told me I should never trace.
I think at a young age, when you're learning, all that stuff's out the window. You just draw. I trace, draw. But once you get to an age and you start to develop your own style, then you don't even need to trace anymore, because I wouldn't want to trace, because I have too many ideas in my head that I'm trying to get out anyway.
That's really amazing. It's just lines, like you said. It's just, I will never look at Bernie Wrightson's artwork the same way again.
It's like these patchworks of lines that build this very complicated wall, like this complicated like Antarctica wall. It's our Arctic wall. It's really well done. I mean,
I guess that
so
far
cool.
shot, that far shot's not in the book. It was just, we'll have to go back to that first page if it's not. Wow.
Again, that boat stuck. Storytelling, such good storytelling with each page.
He's a master storyteller and it's amazing. With just lines, like you said.
This is on a lot of the cover. Like, a lot of So there's a few versions of this book that came out. I think this is the cover of a couple of them.
So it's just sad. He's done.
Yeah.
He's destroyed.
Good lighting though. Look at that lighting. That's one thing that Bernie is just. His lighting is just. It's so recognizable. That's another thing when we're looking at books. It's like, oh, you can tell the lighting is a Bernie lighting. For sure.
Monster. He's a monster, and yet you can still see the human.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the sadness or like the atrophy of the eyes or something like that.
So, oh my God,
look at that.
They just left him on the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this first page. This is such a beautiful image.
Yeah. Yeah.
Such
Again, very calm and serene looking.
Yeah, just a little bit of light peeking through the
and
trees.
that hand kind of creeping.
Yeah,
like that little hand right there, just a tiny bit of light hitting the top of that arm.
Yeah, the only two light sources. I mean, there's light on his face. There's light on, and then just some light peeking through the trees right there.
That's your focal point. It's doing its job. Like
it's
doing its job.
drawing you right there.
Yeah.
I have this print. This is such an amazing thing.
You have this print right now?
Yeah, I have it at home. It's huge. It's 24 by 36.
Yeah. That's a really cool image. Yeah, I want to find the other images that aren't included in this book. I know there's like what I said, there's 50 total. Something like 40 were used, 45 I think were used in the book. So there's another few that are floating around out there that have been published, but not in this book.
Well, I gotta say, I learned I'll never look at his art the same again.
Yeah,
I won't, and in the best way possible. So I appreciate you for wanting to go through this and going through it at a level where it's weird for me as a doing this channel and as an art fan. Like, I just don't know technique. I don't know these words. Like, I don't know what a lot of this stuff means. The more that I hear you talk about it by just like understanding the actual words that are coming out of your mouth, I now get it.
Yeah.
And I never looked at his art as just lines.
Yeah. Well, also this book is more of that. When you look at so Bernie's career spans decades, right?
Sure.
So you can look at him evolve and change and improve and kind of go back and forth. Like he does a lot of this line stuff, but he also does some very tight rendering where he is kind of outlining everything like that. That's why I'm so fascinated by Bernie Wrightson. It's you can look at him and just see how he's just a master at the pen. I mean, there's no way to put it. He can do whatever he wants with the pen. So that's why I like to find his work, is because I never know what I'm going to find sometimes. He's done so much. If you look at his career, he's done comics and posters and storyboards for movies, and there's so much Bernie Wrightson out there, and lots of it is pretty easy to get. He's been published so many times, lots of reproductions out there. So
there's card sets with his art.
Totally. So there's a lot of stuff out there that's really attainable, and it's always a treat to find it in the wild. I love it.
Well, hopefully we'll both get a House of Secrets 92 this year.
That's probably the biggest Bernie book I can think of. Right?
I almost bought one the other day.
Yeah.
So
I always get so excited when I look at Bernie Wrightson stuff. I haven't looked at this book in a long time. This book was in my locker as a kid. I would take it wherever. It's just my favorite.
Awesome
book. Yeah.
Well,
thanks for going through it with me.
Yeah, no, that was
fun.
That was fantastic. I am enlightened in a way that I have not been in a long time. So that'll be it for this episode. Not sure when you're going to see it, but don't forget to like and subscribe. See you on Wednesday for West Coast Wednesday, or on Sunday for Sunday Sit Down. And keep digging, Dave, on the
West Coast Davengers.